Hey guys, welcome back to Tomatoes, Puppies, and Everything Gardening. I just wanted to give you guys a quick update on my 2025 seedlings. And for you guys that have been with me since week 0, when we planted all of those seeds way back late February, thank you. This update is for you. So each week I gave you an update. We went week 1 all the way through, I think, week 7 or 8. I don't know. Did I make a week 8? I can't remember. Maybe I didn't. Because by that point, week 7, I was actively trying to get rid of all of my seedlings that I was not going to keep for myself. And it did become a process because also during week 6 and 7, we had really wild up and down weather. I think during that time period we also had our last frost date, and we got down to like 28, 29 at least one night, and then we had several nights in that 2-week period where it was just too cold to have tomatoes in the ground, peppers in the ground. And so I had like a holding pattern. I couldn't get rid of the plants, but yet I had to still take care of them which was a pain in the butt for me. It really was. My heart was not in it this year. I did not actively advertise like I've done. So this is year 5 for me to start my own starts, to grow my own plants for my garden. For 3 years, I have sowed those plants. I think, gosh, is it 4? I don't know. I might have to add a year to those numbers. Let's just say 3. For 3 years, I have grown plants also in excess that I could give away to family and friends, that I could donate to the food pantry, and that I could possibly sell to people in the neighborhood, people at my husband's work. And so this year, my heart was not into actively seeking people to take plants, seeking people to buy plants. And so I did not advertise on any like Facebook neighborhood groups as I've done in the past until the very last minute. So I just picked 2 groups that I felt were pretty private. And I wouldn't get a lot of like weird people come into my house that I didn't even know in any way, and they didn't even live in my neighborhood. So I tried to just do 2 private groups, because last year I had done like 4, maybe 5 groups, and not all of those were like my exact neighborhood. They were kind of like in a surrounding area, and I had 3 no-shows, 3 people who made an appointment with me to come out. They had me hold plants for them on the side, waiting until the day they could come pick them up, and then they just kind of ghosted me, didn't show, didn't pay. I ended up with all these extra plants, and I felt really bummed about that. I felt kind of cheated out of my time, of my day. Like I was out there working, doing things, but I was like waiting and waiting and waiting, and people didn't show. So I decided to do things differently this year, and I was just kind of half-heartedly putting myself into getting the plants out the door. But they did eventually get out the door. So I had just a total of 4 orders. No, 3. Only 3 for my husband's work. I gave a big chunk to family and friends. And I did have to kind of like text people, message people, and be like, hey, I gave you plants last year. Will you take some plants this year? So some of my daughter's friends, their parents got plants, but not as many as the year before. So I would say that the amount of people I was able to give plants away to this year was 20% less than the years before. Didn't send plants to Kentucky like I have the past 3 years. That was a small chunk, but every little chunk of plants going out the door really does add up and helps me get rid of them. So I got to the point of plants were getting root bound, too big. They were really too big at this point. And we're talking like weeks 8-ish, maybe going into 9. I decided to do a last minute sale at the end of my driveway on Derby Day, which that's when people in Kentucky plant their plants. People here plant a little bit earlier. So people probably already had their plants at this point. But I was really pleasantly surprised. I was able to get rid of, I don't know, maybe 14 plants that day. I mean, I was smiling at people going down the road, waving. That's not me, but I'm sure I look like a creep, and they didn't want to stop. But I was trying to hustle these plants. I was trying to get them out the door. So then I made a second round to the food pantry. So we donated 50, I think, in week 7? And then week 8.5-ish, I took another load. I think it was another 15-ish plants. So that's about 65 plus to the food pantry, which is awesome. They all went. Each day I sent plants. People took them to their homes, and I am so hopeful that they will get a bounty of fruit over the summer from their tomato plants. And then, let's see, what else did I do to get rid of plants? I started planting them in my own yard. So in the backyard, I put in more plants than I normally do. And I am sneaking more and more plants into my HOA front yard. I'm not allowed to have tomato plants out there, but you got to do what you got to do when you've got this many tomato plants. And so after the food pantry drop off, all of the big plants that were in solo cups were gone. That's great. So then I'm left with just the scragglers, which are on my back deck. They need to get potted up at this point. They can be fall plants. They can be replacement plants. I did have one last minute person who saw my posts. I haven't taken those posts down. I need to do that. But she contacted me and she's like, can I buy 4 plants? And I said, of course. I did get rid of 4 plants that way. That was as I was in the transition of getting all mine planted into the ground, all the extras. And so I was able to give her 4, and she's a preschool teacher, and she asked for 4 more in July. And I'm like, well, I've got these littler plants, yes, on the deck. Maybe they'll be ready, or I'll start some new seeds for you. So I'm going to do that. But overall, they were healthy seedlings. I didn't have too many issues this year. The only issue I struggled with in the beginning was germination. And so I reseeded, and I shouldn't have, because I ended up with so many plants of certain varieties. And that kind of put me in the surplus. So there was a surplus of probably too many plants this year. I think I had a total of 403 plants that I was taking care of, seedlings. That's probably too many, maybe 250, 300 some more realistic number going forward in the future, unless I ever get a greenhouse and set up something more on a professional level. Yeah, but I kept reseeding. Well, I reseeded like 2 or 3 times on certain varieties. The berry's crazy. I reseeded 3 times. And then I ended up with all these little seedlings at different stages. But it was taking forever, and they normally don't take that long. I'm not sure what the issue was this year. But that's how it goes when you have seedlings that you're growing from seed. Sometimes you can't predict when they're going to germinate. Yeah. So overall, very healthy plants until the very end. At this point, the plants are almost 9 weeks old, most of them, and they are very top heavy. Their cups are just very light because they're root bound. There's not enough soil for these plants. And so on this particular day, they kept falling over. I had to keep picking them back up. They kept falling over again. I was really getting frustrated with these plants. I was ready for them to all be gone. And I started giving them away to FedEx drivers, Amazon workers, anyone who came my way. We had an air conditioner man come by. I tried to. What I'm thinking for next year, I don't know. The weather was the problem. So if I didn't have to work around the weather, I could have maybe gotten rid of more plants earlier. They just grew so fast towards the end. They were just suckering out. They were getting root bound down in the cup. I was not about to put the soil, the money, the time into potting them up again. I wasn't going to do it. That's why when I had that plant sale, Derby Day, everything was $2. I just marked them down. I said they were clearance plants. They're $2 because I didn't want to put in the time and money into potting them up again. And I don't like to pot up, right? And most customers who are coming to a yard sale who are looking to buy a plant, if they're not into growing their own starts, they're looking for something totally different. I see the root bound cup as a problem. I see the suckering and the fruiting on the plant, like they were getting fruit. They were starting to put flowers. But the people at the yard sale love that. They're like, I want the biggest plant. I want the ones that have already got the little flowers and the little buds. I didn't disagree with them. I just let them buy what they want. All right, guys. So I hope you enjoyed this update. who knows where I'll be next March, late February. Who knows what the whole world will be like then. So I'll just play by ear as to what I'm going to do next year for my seedlings. So I hope you had a great start to your spring and summer planting. I know a lot of you probably got all your plants in the ground by now. I still have a few more. It's taken me like 2.5 weeks trying. It's been a busy time. All right, guys, I'll talk to you soon. Bye.